Thanks for coming today. Let me begin by telling you about these two comics. As you pass them around and have a chuckle, I want you to realize that there's some truth in these comics. They kind of poke fun and show that parents have gone overboard. Yes. But that's very true, and they're part of a problem today in society. Many of our young adults and youth are failing. Allowing failure to happen is really necessary for kids. The positive outcomes that result from failure shows clearly why parenting styles must change. I've raised 4 kids and I coached 4 sports for over 20 years, and then I worked with a foster care review board, and I had a little bit more insight than some to this growing problem. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. Our young adults are struggling in society, and kids are becoming more and more entitled, and we need to start letting our children fail if we hope to see them succeed. Failure provides natural consequences that are essential for growth. Failure is an excellent teacher for everyone. We need to also learn to embrace crisis when it occurs. We will take a look at some of the individuals who have become famous through their failures. So first, let me tell you about various areas that are contributing to this trend. As we break down how we should let our children fail, we can take a more in-depth look at perhaps when we save them from their natural consequences. So Sarah Bean lists 5 natural consequences, and I'm going to address those. Allowing failure when poor decisions are made at school result in showing your child, and I quote, that rules are here for a reason and going against them is unpleasant, end quote. So when something goes wrong at school with your child and they receive a detention, please believe there's a good reason for it. Allow the school to take action, and if that action is no recess or perhaps a detention or even community service, please support that authority and do not undermine those teachers. It is a natural consequence. Another area is with personal belongings. Most kids have their own space, and the simple task of bringing their dirty clothes to the laundry can teach a lot. And if they fail to do so, then perhaps they have dirty clothes. Or even better, they learn to do their own wash. A natural consequence of a messy room might be that they can't even find the things they need. A friend of mine, Brooke, has a son, Ty. And Ty forgot his jacket one day. And he was cold at recess. We live in Oregon and it rains and it's a little chilly. And Brooke's not a mom to run and help her kids when they are responsible to take care of it themselves. As a result, Ty didn't have anybody rescue him, but he's never forgotten his jacket again. Household chores should be part of all of our homes. Teaching kids to do work for a small allowance by paying them for the chores they do helps them understand how their real world works. You must work if you expect to get paid, or you will be fired and you will not be able to buy the things you need or want. When my kids were still at home, it drove me crazy to see their stuff strewn all over my house. And I'd finally had enough, and I told them I would be getting a basket, and at the end of the day I would be collecting their things, and they would have to pay me for the work I did in collecting all the belongings. I had one daughter, and she laughed and she said, well, you're not going to take my homework, so I'm going to have to pick up that. I reminded her I would take everything. The next morning, to her chagrin, her homework was confiscated. She went to school, and surprisingly to her, her teacher agreed that her mother could confiscate her homework. This child had to learn how to put her homework in her backpack the hard way, but she did eventually learn it. That leads to another area of homework. Sometimes a child's embarrassed. They go to school, they're asked by the teacher a question. They don't know the answer because they didn't crack the book. And they're forced to look a little dumb in front of their peers. Or perhaps they don't do their homework and so their grades fail and they can't be on that sports team that they desire to be with. And they let their team buddies down. Or maybe it's even their GPA isn't high enough and they suddenly want to be in a university they can't go to because they don't qualify. Every child must learn to take responsibility for their own progression in school. You cannot follow your child to work every day and remind him of his responsibilities when he's an adult. Far easier it is for a child to learn those lessons in their youth. Getting a poor grade is a natural consequence, and not nearly as painful as losing a job. Behavior in the community is the last one that I will touch on. Sometimes our kids act poorly at a friend's house, and as a natural consequence, they're not invited back. Don't change that. Don't get involved. Let that happen. It is, again, our natural consequence. I had an experience also with one of my daughters where she's out joyriding and just kind of lost track of the speed. Got a ticket as a result. And as we went to court, the state we lived in required that an adult accompany anybody under 18. So my daughter and I appeared before the judge, and the first question he asked was, who is paying this ticket? And before I could utter anything, she quickly said, well, I am. My mom would never pay this ticket. The judge, in a very loud voice, thanked me, told me I could sit down, and said this child is being taught responsibility, and she will think twice before she speeds again. That is a natural consequence. So, does failure really work? Chip Ingram, the author of Let Your Kids Fail, teaches us how allowing our children to fail gives them, and I quote, life-altering perspectives on the reality of working for a goal. He reminds us that we do a disservice when we cover them or alleviate the consequences, and we are denying them opportunities for growth that come with failure and disappointment, end quote. Our kids must learn how to cope, and as they do, their confidence will grow, and they will learn how to persevere in life. Yes, there are going to be some bumps and some bruises along the way, some of their own doing, some even inflicted on them by others, but they will be better for it, and they will learn how to hold their own. Susan Newman taught that today's overprotective, failure-avoidant parenting style has undermined the competence, the independence, and the academic potential of an entire generation. She goes on to quote how one university student said she became conditioned of a fear of failure. In Newman's book, The Gift of Failure, she reminds us that failure helps children learn about themselves and reminds us that they will recover. Another point she offered was parents, be patient and trust in your kids. And remember that when we say, let me do that for you, we are telling our kids that they are not capable. Newman also wrote that the harder the kids work to overcome their challenges, the smarter they become. And those children whose parents support autonomy become more competent and resilient. Her last point reminds us that kids who pursue their goals are likely to meet them and then also stick with them in the long haul. Next, let's learn about viewing a crisis. Crisis is kind of a scary word. James Lehman teaches about the word crisis, and he explains it this way. He talks about the Chinese symbol for crisis, and it's a combination of two symbols, one being danger and the other one being opportunity. Yes, crisis presents danger, but it also presents an opportunity. Allow your child to fail. Failure is an opportunity to get your child to look at himself. Now let's review some of those who have faced failure. Let me share some advice from these well-known individuals who have embraced failure in their lives. Elvis Presley said, when things go wrong, don't go with them. Michael Jordan said, I've failed over and over and over again, and that is why I have succeeded. Vincent van Gogh said, what would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? And J.K. Rowling, the author, said, rock bottom became a solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. And last of all, Thomas Edison said, many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. In summation, let's review why failure is good for our kids then. And remember that it's also good for us. Failure brings forth many good fruits, both for the parents who desire the very best for their child, and also for the child who will grow into a confident and competent adult, and who will be able to weather all the storms of life. By choosing to let our kids fail in their personal life, in the home, at school, and within our communities, it affords them the best opportunity to face any crisis in life and to come off the conqueror. They'll learn how to cope and face their natural consequences of their decisions head on. As each of us learn to view failure as a positive, we can alter the current trend of bringing up entitled kids who cannot succeed in our real world. As we embrace failure, a new generation of young adults will be ready to be a force for positive change in our world. And they will be empowered to reach their goals. Failure brings forth great growth. I plead with you to allow failure to be the teacher that it was meant to be. Our next generation of kids can achieve their dreams as both our youth and adults embrace the lessons of failure. Remember that failure gives us the opportunity to turn weaknesses into strengths. Failure leads to success in life. Face it head on. Thank you. Okay, how much time, Jenny? I'm curious.